I don't know if you caught this, but there was a very clever line in Ahsoka Part 7 when she's fighting against Baylan. It's very clear she's met her match. I rewatched this scene about 5 times. It was like a dance, each exploiting the other's technique and trying to find an opening and trying to find a weakness. And they eventually reach a deadlock. Now, I've often said Baylan is very Dooku-like, and Ray Stevenson, being a phenomenal and expressive actor, was able to convey with an eyebrow raised and a smirk that Baylan was enjoying the fight. So was Ahsoka. They made it clear they didn't have time for it, but it's almost as if they respected each other's talents, and that made for a beautiful second duel between the two. But make no mistake, Ahsoka was beaten. Baylan, with his Form 5, really blends well with and complements his strength and stamina, his frame, which overwhelms his opponents. In the first fight, Ahsoka just used one blade, but on Seatos she used both. But notably his ability to track Ahsoka's movements, watching both those blades, we don't give him enough credit as a fantastic duelist. Ahsoka tends to combine Forms 4 and 5. In her most attack-driven battles, she uses Gem So, whereas for defense, she tends to fall back on Shin, both combined with the acrobatics of Ataru, not to mention a proficiency in Jar Kai when she uses both lightsabers. I was highly impressed with the choreography, as I was in Part 4 when they fought on Seatos. But near the end of their duel on Peridea, Baylan says, "You can't defeat me," to which Ahsoka diligently responds, "I don't have to." She might not be able to beat Baylan, but that's not the point. Aside from the fact the T6 provided the perfect distraction, her saying perhaps "I don't have to" has 3 layers of meaning. The first is the fact that as fans who've watched Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, in Star Wars Rebels, we know Ahsoka doesn't always win her fights, but in a way she does. It's not because she can always defeat the opponent, but more the fact she always survives. And those same opponents eventually die off. Ahsoka's victory up until this point has been her survival. She's extremely talented with a lightsaber and has defeated many enemies. But in her mind, as a sophisticated Jedi, and now Ahsoka the White, it's not always about putting a lightsaber through someone, it's about surviving. She's a great fighter, an expert duelist you might say, but she's more than that. She is a true Jedi. Before the show came out, fans were wondering, why are they calling her a Jedi in all of the promos and all the teasers? Because she walked away from the Order. While this show has done a tremendous amount to build on the theme of Master and Apprentice, her being a master to Sabine, but in a way, also still being an apprentice, having her final lesson to complete her training from Anakin in the world between worlds. And now, as Dave Filoni says, everything about her outlook on life, both in terms of her own life but also life itself, is Jedi. Her philosophy is one of a Jedi, always wanting to do the right thing, fighting the good fight, and possessing the wisdom to understand a victory isn't always killing your enemy, but rather preserving your own life and the lives of others by making a clean escape. It goes back to what Yoda said, a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. She never puts herself first, and yet she always survives, even when the odds are stacked against her. And you might say that's Dave Filoni never wanting to kill off his characters, but in the case of Ahsoka, there is still so much story to tell. The next layer of meaning to "I don't have to" comes in the form that she may realise that Baylan is doomed. And so maybe at the start of the fight, when she was trying to read him and get inside his head, she may have realised his true motive. You would assume that given Ahsoka's connection to the daughter, as soon as she arrived in Peridea, she would have triggered the Force deity and sensed it herself. She knows that he's out there looking for something, so while she doesn't have to defeat him, there is a good chance the Force being that he's looking for, which could be malicious, is going to do that instead, defeat him. And in her mind, he might be screwed either way, because even if he doesn't find this thing calling out to him, even if he goes back to Thrawn, he's going to be disposable. But I don't think that's where it's going. He clearly abandoned, joining Thrawn's empire. Baylan has something else going on. And I think that's what we all want to know. That's our biggest hope for the finale. I do believe, having rewatched the episode now a few times, their second duel was done in good spirit, or at least in better spirits than we realise. Because Baylan was a bit surprised that she survived, but also kind of expected it. He clearly knows quite a bit about her. And they're both remnants of the Clone Wars, they both survived. So there is an underlying level of mutual respect. We saw Baylan in earlier episodes showing remorse over the fact he might have to kill her. But considering she survived the fall on Seatos in their first duel, I think he's got a lot more respect for her now. But Ahsoka, Sabine, Shin, all of those things are considered distractions for Baylan. there is a unilateral personal mission he's on, and that is where both his mind and spirit are at. But there is something to be said about the fact that during both duels, Ahsoka herself was distracted too. In their first duel, Ahsoka's worrying about Sabine, especially after Shin returned with no sight of her Padawan, and in Part 7, last Tuesday, Ahsoka was more preoccupied with getting to Sabine and Ezra on time, and her only purpose was to get past Baylan and take his howler for transport. Ahsoka's priorities, just like Baylan, were truly on other things. Lightsaber blades can tell when their users' minds are clouded, a sentiment echoed by Kanan Jarrus, and even non-Jedi such as the Armorer when she was training Din in the Book of Boba Fett when using the Darksaber. When the user isn't focused on the present moment, their blade cannot connect with them in the way it should. Kyber crystals are alive, and whatever type of crystal Baylan is using too, may be a colon crystal, which I spoke about in a previous video, the heavy ones that give an orange hue that were first seen in the book Master and Apprentice. And I have seen some criticism over this second duel. Some fans think that Ahsoka should be a more powerful and better duelist, considering she did better than most against the likes of Darth Vader and Darth Maul during the Siege of Mandalore, and the fact Baylan is no more powerful than either of those has gotten some very confused. But context is important. The mission at hand isn't just any old fulcrum mission from back during the days of the Rebellion, back during Star Wars Rebels. This is different. The lives of her friends, getting everyone home, and in a sense, the fate of the galaxy is in her hands. Time is of the essence, and Thrawn even said, Ahsoka's lost the most valuable thing, time. But we also cannot underestimate Baylan. By going against Thrawn and removing himself from the fight, he perplexed the Grand Admiral and showed initiative that confused not just the characters in the show, but also the audience. We're left wondering, what is this guy about? What is he gonna do? Ray Stevenson at Star Wars Celebration said the same thing. You're not supposed to have this guy worked out. But just to know he was one of the top generals of the Clone Wars tells me he's a rival tactician to Thrawn himself. But it would not surprise me if the two fights are setting up one big one in the season finale, but one that doesn't just involve Baylan, but also Morgan Elsbeth, maybe Shin, before she decides probably to defect. But to be honest, given the plot, I don't see why she's going to run into Baylan again. He's now split himself from Grand Admiral Thrawn, and instead pursuing his own agenda. The fallen Jedi is seeking a new beginning, and someone or something, maybe a being akin to the Bendu, maybe something concerning the Night Sisters, or maybe the Zeffo, is willing to promise him that, but it might come at a price. The VFX artists and choreographers should be very proud because the lightsaber duels have been insane in this show. Considering it's been a long time since we've had a Jedi-focused live-action project, this series has delivered, and it is such a shame it's coming to an end, and such a shame this is going to be Ray Stevenson's last on-screen performance. He's a legend, it's going to be a really bittersweet finale. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. Did you enjoy the fight on Peridea? Is there going to be another one in the next episode? And what do you make of the way the dialogue hides a lot of very deep subtleties? If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and if you want more videos that you can't find here on YouTube, while also supporting the channel, then click the link down below. But until the next one guys, may the Force be with you, always.